are kind of in the middle of those three, so even just against their own fellow national Thai teams, they are kind of looking to prove something against them, if not only against Talon Esports in this match about to play out on your screens.
And this time Persia's going to start things out with the Sombra as well. Note we didn't see Talon really get into the Sombra until about map 2, or at least further through the first map onto Nepal. Not going to waste any time with that. Nitsuna as well onto the Sombra. Nothing else is kind of really that different. I do want to sort of highlight Bumburapa. You've mentioned that some early deaths from him have cost Bazaar in the past, so can he survive early on?
Certainly remains to be seen. And if I'm not mistaken, Pichu and Sadistic are having a bit of a swap over here as well, if I'm not mistaken. Pichu...
Persia's in?
Yeah, Persia right in the thick of it. Getting a little bit pressured out though, and Nitsuru-sama kind of matching it for ults. In fact, gets the opening pick. It's 1-for-1 so far, but Bazaar want to take the fight in earnest, and actually Talon getting a little bit low. They're losing the tanks here. Nitsuru-sama just going to work here, firing on all sides, on all cylinders, and Bazaar going to win that opening skirmish.
That's going to be quite the turnaround as well. Talon definitely threw the first punch there, if you will, but it didn't really hurt. They kind of got the one member that they couldn't secure anybody else. Bazaar played that a little bit patiently, managed to, you know, that was definitely a virtue for them because they got that big turnaround. Persia had that opening aggressiveness, but couldn't convert it into anything meaningful.
That being said, he has been able to run even to Nitsuru-sama's ultimate charge, and that is going to come in crucial at some point here. So the battle of the EMPs, the commit coming in big for Bazaar with the coalescence, but it hasn't converted into anything just yet. In fact, nice pulse bomb, nearly kills both tanks, but Bumburapa, he was able to prop the Primal Rage, and with that, they're able to start getting some kills into the mix. Persia down as well. Of course, wasn't going to commit the EMP in the fight as it had already gone sour, but certainly not going to have the option to. And that's a very cheap fight for Bazaar.
I said Panties was low, but he didn't go down, and that's very important. He was also the one that kind of opened things up with the coalescence. Bumburapa, though, that might be a little bit costly. Talon got to come back with a player advantage. That being said, it was still a pretty good fight for Bazaar. They still have ultimates to delay.
Oh, nice placement on the EMP. They read that Talon was seeking to go in early, take a 5v5 when they felt they could, but the conversion not quite there. Good sound barrier though after Persia's EMP, and Persia forced way back. I can't believe he got out with his life there, but it doesn't matter. The fight was still lost anyway, and the EMP unfortunately going off to no effect. As I say that as well, Nitsuru-sama with the follow-up. Bazaar looking really solid here, getting those really crucial ultimates out of Talon and also winning the fight despite the very late kill on Bumburapa.
Well, the shining moment for them is the fact that they can always end it quite quickly. So that very start of the fight, when the EMP comes in, or the previous one when Panties had the coalescence, that was pretty effective. That's how Bazaar have been getting ahead.
Straight on to the point with the Transcendence, the only thing that's going to get them nicely set up here, but Bazaar just kind of waiting it out, weathering the storm. Now looking to get aggressive as they catch Zobi here. Not the opening Bazaar wanted, but they are at 99%. Panties as well with the coalescence. His third now of the game. The ultimate's being committed in by Bazaar. Looking to try and close it out. They get Slay Vega, but they are the ones losing the members this time around. They really need to close out of Raphael and Persia, and Buteo still just able to take just enough. No one here from Bazaar to really convert any more kills. Finally flips the way of Talon.
That was nearly a 100-0 for Bazaar as well. In fact, if Bazaar had managed to keep a couple more members alive, they had a couple more ultimates to use, and if those were effective, you could definitely see them having won that last fight. But now Talon, they struggled to swing it back around. They now have swung it back around, and they got to keep it this way. Nitsuna-sama so close to the EMP, Bazaar could still win it right here, right now.
And that's going to be what's going to make it hard. This is the hard fight for Talon to withstand. Nice open already, and now the EMP. Persia just dunks down Bazaar, looking to just cleanly run their way onto that when MCD gets that Transcendence out just barely, but it's really just to save his own life. There's no one to really be healing up, and he's going to die right at the back of it anyway. They do get Bumburapa in among that, but it's not going to matter. The other members of Talon on the point, capped over. No one alive for Talon, unfortunately for them. Far too late on that EMP from Persia, and that is a pretty solid map win out of Bazaar.
It's a full team fight too late, right? Because Bumburapa went in, got that, sorry, well, he did go in, but also it was the fact that Bazaar were able to get the EMP off so much sooner. Persia got killed in the middle of that fight. EMP up, couldn't use it, had to come back. By the time he respawns, far too late. The fight is over. The kills were converted so quickly by the team of Bazaar. It just didn't even matter. It was noted there. That was going to be a very difficult fight for Talon to sort of bounce back from. even though they had point control, they just didn't have the tools to complete the game.
That's the thing, even if they had weathered that storm, there were many more to come. It was only one fight win away from being a full cap out the moment you hit that 99%. So there's this really interesting thing, I think, there. You have to consider that that's actually about as good as it goes, short of being a full 100-0 for Bazaar. The reason for that is you get all the way to 99%, then your opponent gets the fight where they've finally got, you know, a bit of an advantage. They win that fight, and then you come straight back in, first of all, with your own advantage, but also with the execution all there. And this, like, I don't want to say nigh insurmountable, that makes it sound too dramatic, but a very high impact tool like the EMP just firing off perfectly.
Now coming into fight number 1 of Village, we're going to see if Persia can get that great start again. It's going to be Talon in deep to start things off with.
Yeah, trying to close out on Panties, but it's Buteok unfortunately going down in that deep dive. Does pay off though, as they get the numerical advantage. But Bazaar more than happy to scrap this one out there, in it for the long haul. Good hack though onto Pichu will allow Raphael to close that one out, and it looks like Bazaar just don't quite have enough members left to stay in this one. The remainder do back off. Late death on Persia, unfortunately. And Talon should be able to get, oh, sadistic. That's rough.
That is pretty sadistic, and Bazaar going to have to try and make that comeback now, is what they do have is a slight, and I say very slight advantage on Nitsudasama's EMP here, which is probably not going to be enough because Talon is just so close to everything else, and this time it was Talon just firing first. They found the opening, they dived, and Bazaar could not respond.
That being said, the ultimates have ended up coming out just about even, with the main exception being Raphael, and it's actually Haru going down very early. Bazaar just kind of piling straight in, Buteok as well. Very efficient, effective dive here. Raphael kind of playing recovery, is not going to be able to get the pulse bomb off. Persia as well, very late EMP, hoping that Raphael can maybe get the conversion. He only got Bombarapa, so Bazaar get the cap. They can sort of get these members back healthy. Nice stagger kill on MCD as well. Bazaar actually looking in really good shape.
The EMP wasn't enough for Talon Esports, and that's the disappointing thing because they managed to catch Nitsudasama, and that could have been a kill. You saw his HP was incredibly low. Talon, they couldn't capitalize. They couldn't get enough kills, not even Nitsudasama, whose EMP he managed to save. So now Bazaar, they get to go back onto Shrine and that playstyle once again, get those early fights going, get those early ultimates in the game. Talon Esports might be on the back foot.
Oh, and there's a big one right into the marching column of Talon as they just get picked to bits. Self-destruct from Slay Vega. It doesn't find anyone. Doesn't exactly help him really either. It just allows him to get staggered out. So just another resource not available. Bazaar, very cheap, very effective fight.
That is textbook how you want to engage the EMP. No other ultimates used. Only the EMP, mid-rotation on Talon as well. Perfect interception by Nitsudasama and the rest of Bazaar. Now they have so much tools to use coming up.
Not quite as preemptive this time, Bazaar, because a member is on the point for Talon. Contest is there, though, and already fights going their way regardless. Slay Vega, no self-destruct, and it's just nothing quite here for Talon.
And now they get to cash in on all those extra ultimates that they had saved. The only thing that's a little bit concerning is that double support ultimates were used by Bazaar there. Maybe a little bit too panicky, but you know, if it works so far, they got to try and make it work just a little bit more. 20% left until they can finish this map.
It's going to be a bit of a trickier one this time around, though. You see the ultimates coming in rotation for Talon, notably those DPS, but some Pichu already down to Raphael, so Bazaar, they already have ultimates they can use in recovery this time like they did in the last fight. May just have to push this to 99, preserve some tools, draw some out of Talon, take the fight on the chin. And that does indeed look to be the plan here. Bombarapa, though, committing the Primal Rage, he's obviously decided they want to stay in it, but they need to make it pay off. Yeah, EMP, and yeah, a Bombarapa over the edge. I think Bazaar committing a couple of ultimates that they didn't need to there, but they do have plenty of time to get that one last fight win.
At the same time, they've read that EMP out of Persian. They were waiting for it. They said that we need to get one more ultimate. Specifically, if we can get the EMP, it'll be so huge. They got that and left the fight. The EMP didn't clean up any members, and that means Talon can't get the rest of the ultimates that they do not have. If MCD doesn't get Transcendence here, this could be very tricky. Haru's Sound Barrier can get counted out by Nitsudasama's EMP.
And he's looking for the angle, gets a decent one. Instant slam dunk and conversion onto MCD. The sound barrier from Talon a little late to the game there, not really saving the members. Trying to get the damage onto Persia, trying to get the damage onto Raphael. Pichu running circles around them. It's a close out there, but unfortunately losing some members of their own. Without that tank line, they may have sort of lost their punch. given that Sadistic rather is lacking the mech, but they're still getting conversion, still getting closeout. It's just Slay Vega being the presence on the point now. There's Talon looking for the DPSs to come back in, but they can come back in. MCD will have a Transcendence that he can and will commit here. Persia nearly at an EMP, plus getting the kill on Tsurusama. There's also going to be a Pulse Bomb, and now Talon have reset. They're looking to commit the fight. The Transcendence coming up, but the EMP is big. Boombarappa already dead. Once again, Sadistic demech, and the respawners have come in for Talon just in the nick of time as Buteok starting to clean up tidily on the point. Now, Bazaar are the ones who have to be in panic mode.
And you say respawners coming in the nick of time. That works for Talon. Might not work so well for Bazaar. 3% make that one now 99. Somebody barely touches the point, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough members.
Oh no! Tsurusama died before he got on it. That was really unfortunate. You have to compliment and credit Talon, though, for playing out that fight, balancing it on a knife's edge as it started going sour and having just the right tools at the right moments. Bazaar not quite able to close it out, kill those last few members to really seal the deal.
And I was expecting Bazaar to be the ones countering the sound barrier on the other side of Talon. Haru, he was waiting to use that when they did get MCD, stopped them from getting the Transcendence, forced them to respawn, but it was actually a counter EMP played by Persia on Talon that managed to shut down Zobi's sound barrier. That was absolutely the critical move that actually stopped Bazaar, got that counter cap, didn't give enough percentage points remaining for Bazaar to come back on the point.
And with that now, evened up. Talon not out of it just yet. Big charge in for Buteok. Doesn't quite catch anything, and he's in too deep. That's not what he was looking for. Now the rest of Talon are just overextended. That's a pretty clean fight now from Bazaar. Not too difficult. And also, a lot of ult charge fed over. Oh, nice boop at the very end there by Haru, but it's just sort of a consolation prize, really, as he has to kind of take a dive himself.
And this time we see Talon kind of doing very similar what they did on Village, which is get that very early fight and be very aggressive, just put the pressure onto Bazaar. But with the composition that Bazaar have, look, with a Junkrat, with an Orisa, you want to get aggressive, we will punish that. That is exactly what happened.
And that's the thing, maybe going in just a little bit too quickly in that regard. Should have perhaps sounded out the team comp first, but once again, the dive in from Buteok. This time, different comp is on the flank. Hard dive, and it works. They are able to catch these members just before ultimates would have been a factor for Bazaar. That is exactly what Talon needed.
Persia just finding the kills as well. You look at that pinch from the third-person angle, the way Talon Esports just collapsed on top of Bazaar in that middle section. Bazaar had nowhere to run to on one side, or two, in fact, two sides. It was just all Talon members, and then you got a death pit on the other two remaining sides for Bazaar. Nowhere to go, and all the kills go in the favor of Talon.
Persia unfortunately picking the wrong side. Spots out the trap. Now they're looking to get the wrap around straight onto the Zenyatta. He's able to commit the Transcendence. Bazaar have an opening. Tsurusama, that may have been enough. Yeah, Pichu had actually started his tac visor before he died, which is very unfortunate, but the fight does still go the way of Bazaar. Not a cheap one, mind you. Talon not committing any. Oh, Persia late on the Dragon Blade, and I think maybe not an ideal time for it. Gets nothing, goes down. Actually did get Zobi. That was some really interesting timings when the ult's being committed.
It's not over.
Talon. It's not over indeed. They are at least buying more time at the point as well. Sadistic, I don't know if he committed out the self-destruct. I think he did. There it goes. But he doesn't get back in the mech. And Talon, they've actually just barely weathered the storm. Bazaar didn't have enough members at the end.
That was very well played. That wasn't like I said, the primal rate was really unfortunate. And that actually might give Bazaar the opening now, but for Talon, because they weathered that storm, because they survived, they got so much extra percentage points. Bazaar, though, the big guns are starting to come out.
Yeah, they're really firing everything they've got at this one. And it's only half paying off. They're only getting trade kills here, unfortunately. And that's not going to be enough in the long run. Raphael is still getting to do work in these fights. We've seen so little out of Pichu. Decent bio grenade, but they're having a hard time keeping their tanks in the fight for the whole way through. Bazaar needing to find their way onto the Zombie going down. Boombarappa now getting picked out by a Pulse Bomb, and they're just not getting enough kills to make it a landslide, not dealing with the DPSs, and they don't have the right composition to fight on the point, so they're not even getting cap pressure.
And they're now losing members really late on this defense, on the, not the defense, but the reset. They can't even get panties out. It's 3% remaining, and they're waiting for more players.
No one's there. No one can touch it. That's just going to be a cap. Unfortunately, I don't think Bazaar really had the right team composition for that when push came to shove. We saw the one ideal fight, and it just wasn't quite clean enough for them. And that's interesting because of how many fights, especially on those first two, that were super clean.
I don't necessarily think team composition was a huge issue. It's more so the execution of that, because one thing you have to consider, and I will give this part to you, because the Orisa composition, any composition that really relies on Orisa as your main tank, has a hard time breaking through when you do not have control of that cap. So on a control map, if your Orisa's sitting there and your team's already got the cap, great, that's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
But if you're pushing back in, it is very hard. And they had some fights. That Supercharger fight was a big one. They could have gotten a lot with that. They needed to get a lot with that Supercharger fight, but it was counted, not enough kills from Bazaar, and most importantly, Talon, we thought maybe they should have backed up. We thought this doesn't look too good. They knew better. They said, we're hanging in. It worked out for them, got a bunch of extra percentage points, and that's what gave them the win.
Well, and it's recognizing that the only thing on the point by then was just a D.Va who was, all out of resources. The rockets had just been used. There was a self-destruct, but, that there's plenty of places to hide from it in that situation. And once she's out of the mech, they can kill the squishy D.Va before she remechs. And then it was just like a support that was miles away. They recognized that they had just enough of the right things on the point, even though it was still pretty much even at that point. And that's the funny thing about fights where it seems like there's a lot of kills being traded. When you get down to, the last two standing on each team, first of all, respawns become a factor. If your Winston died very, very early in the fight, and on the other team it was like an Ana or something, that Winston's rejoining sooner. Plus, if you've got those DPSs left and the only remaining members on the other side are squishy players without the same kill pressure, that's exactly how that played out for Talon. They were right to make that call. They assessed the situation very, very well. And
also they had the percentage points as well, because they already had control of the cap, so it was all in their favor. Yep. Let's see if the next map can also be in their favor. It will be Numbani coming up as Bazaar's pick, but let's also flip the script a little. Talk about Bazaar, because they had a great opening on the poll. They actually got that point. It looked like a pretty good one as well, nearly 100-0. I would have probably given that 100-0 for them, but they had the respect to back off and give Talon a cap, and then they came in and just shut it down straight away. Now, Bazaar came close to potentially taking the poll.
Yeah.
I actually think this is a super competitive series. I want to go back and say you are possibly quite right on the 3-1. 4-0 is possible, because I think Talon are still a very good team, but look, Bazaar are punching big.
They absolutely are. We do have to consider that. I mean, I appreciate you retroactively agreeing with me, but I actually have to go back and retroactively. Oh, thank you. I have to go back and retroactively agree with you insofar as you've also got to consider how that very last one went here, and it does seem now that Talon are just a little bit more up to speed than they were on Shrine. And we already saw, Village was more competitive than Shrine. Sanctum ended up going completely the way of Talon, and now Numbani could just be the exact same tune. And interestingly enough, Talon are choosing to attack first.
And also, I think we have seen this previously last week when Talon played. They did choose to attack a couple times, but also to speak to that last point as well, coming close, unfortunately, isn't good enough. Being able to close out a map is a virtue. Even more important is to close out a match, which Bazaar haven't done yet, which Talon did 4-0 convincingly. And so for Bazaar, coming close, unfortunately, may not be, when especially you look at our previous match, right? Because Blank had some struggles there, but they 4-0.
Yeah, close, but no Bazaar.
That's a new one.
Yeah. I was really hoping I'd get a much heartier laugh out of you than that.
Look, I'm saving it. I'm saving it for Big Kahuna.
Saving it.
I know you got one waiting for me in there.
Big Kahuna. Well, at any rate, Talon.
I got one hearty laugh per night, so
that's it.
That's a quota.
You need to not blow it too early. There's the dive in from Talon. Good sort of pullback for now from Bazaar to kind of weather it, but it lets Talon get onto the point. Now Bazaar need to push back, and you see them getting aggressive. Now Bumbarapa maybe sort of led a little bit off to the side, maybe a bit of a mistake. They do open the way.
Okay, Pichu.
Dropping Raphael. Okay, indeed, Pichu. Now already looking to get Slay Vega out of the mech. This is going very nicely for Bazaar. Pichu, my boy.
Yeah, it's happening in Bazaar. They sort of counteracted that early move. You saw Talon get on the point reasonably quickly. That is one thing Talon have been able to do reasonably consistent is they don't slow down. They haven't, they don't waste time. They know what they need to do and they get in position very quickly before Bazaar. It's about kind of waiting for that and seeing how to respond. It's a wave crashing on you. Can you survive that?
Kind of apps. The logo does look a bit like a wave. It also looks a bit like a lion. Looks a lot like a lot of things, but right now for Bazaar, it's looking like a decent defense. But Talon, this time getting a third on there, actually getting a second third still relatively. Shut down. Yeah, shut down indeed, but Raphael is still going off. You get one, you've still got to get the other. You know, it's a Hydra. Cut off one head and two more grow in its place. And Bazaar not quite getting the same kind of kill pressure this time around. Pichu not quite running in circles around these members. In fact, dying is sort of the opposite of running in circles. You don't run anywhere when you're dead. Zobi going in, maybe for a res, maybe for a stall. But what he does do is give up a death, feed some ultimate charge, and that's going to be the cap now. The moment going the way of Talon.
And Nitsuru-sama in the middle of that is always taking a lot of damage, trying to decide whether to go in or not. Importantly, decides to back out because he has that tactical visor. The setup on the B defense in Streets and Numbani, very important for the defense. And for Bazaar, they need this tank visor to work because it's their one big tool to secure this defense and stabilize.
And Talon have their own tools coming into this as well. They've got a self-destruct and a primal rage that could really dislodge Nitsuru-sama from wherever his ideal position would be. Not to mention if Raphael finds the angle. No, not quite going to connect, but now Butek going aggressive. Wants to preempt that tactical visor, and Panties does go down to that. Yeah, he had the Transcendence available. Butek as well, getting out with his life. That is very unfortunate for Bazaar.
And I think that's the sort of moment where you needed to use the trance, you needed to keep your positioning. The good news is Bazaar didn't bleed any other members, so now they will get Panties back. They should be able to stop the card in time, but now they need to commit. They don't have any more chances. They don't have any more fights on B where they can say, let's pull back.
They've just got to go on this one. They've given a lot of time, a lot of space to Talon, maybe a lot of respect, more than maybe was necessary. Sound barrier, though, bit wonky from Talon. Only caught 2 and Persia goes down. A lot of resources used very early for Talon to no effect. Now Pichu able to make something happen. MCD getting into the thick of it, but he doesn't even save Slave Vega's mech. Also, by the way, only 2 people, aside from himself, were there to save by that point, and Nitsuru-sama largely uncontested now, able to pump out the damage. That is the defense Bazaar needed, but it feels almost a bit more like a misfire out of Talon.
It was a very late defense though, like they had to look at that cart position, barely stopped it in time, and I do think there was some misfiring from Talon. What they didn't manage to do though was they shut down Nitsuru-sama's tactical visors, so they did see that and they did counter that, but you're right, like it wasn't fully clean out of Talon either. And now they're going to have to come back. They do have a Dragon Blade which isn't going to be able to be counted out.
Very aggressive. Persia just diving straight in to try and make it work. They do indeed get Zobi and Pichu. That's maybe the more important one that removes the kill pressure on the side of Bazaar. It is indeed a cap, and Boom Barappa going down despite the Primal Rage. Now these are just late stagger kills. Bazaar not quite backed off enough, unfortunately.
A huge reset that that Persia was able to get to clean up those double members sort of staying around at the end there. They probably knew their lives were done anyway. This is going to give Talon a little bit of space to work with as the cart does make its way across that first corner. If it can get to the second corner, that'll be really huge. And for Bazaar, they got to get this defense underway again.
Oh, Pulse Bomb straight in. Zobi, no way to escape, but while throwing that in, Slave Vega left itself vulnerable. The follow-up was there from Bazaar, maybe a bit too far forward there from Talon. Bazaar just sort of went, yeah, all right, we'll get out of the way of the self-destruct. We'll go further, closer to you.
Which is the correct way to go if you want to start a fight, which is what Bazaar wanted to do. However, for Talon, I do want to also say objective was partially completed here, being the fact that they got that cut nearly around that second bend. Getting around the second bend would have been huge. Nearly getting it there is still a pretty big deal. There was a lot of free push. Talon got now a decent amount of ults. It's very possible they can push to the end in this one fight.
Very possible indeed, but Talon wanting to kind of shut the lid on it, very aggressive, very quick, but they had to go a long way just to get close to Bazaar. That could play in Bazaar's favor here. Self-destruct from Sadistic, yeah. No one's pushing the cart, that's the thing. Very deep now as they do catch Nitsuru-sama, but if Talon end up losing too many members here, this push doesn't work out, then this is going to be really overzealous, over-aggressive from them, and things are only just working out. They do get Sadistic, but by the time they're back on the payload and getting close, the respawns will have come in for Bazaar here. I think that was just a misuse of resources from Talon.
It was. They needed to take a 5v6 there. There's no two ways about it. Look at this, you're absolutely right. Defense is coming in. They didn't really get that much out of that fight. Yes, they got a team wipe, but they're not capping because the cart made 0 distance, unfortunately.
Yeah, now all the ultimates able to be committed from Bazaar. Buteok having to commit this Primal Rage just to keep Notsuru-sama out of the picture. He does so successfully. Corner trap onto Panties. No, he's able to get back into the base, but Sadistic losing his mech. He was kind of stuck out alone on the point while the rest of his members were trapped in base. But now that they're broken out, things starting to go their way a little bit. Talon struggling to find the upper hand. Boom Barapa could have kind of causing disarray for a good long time there, and it's giving them just enough time to wheel around, get the damage down, and Talon is having to pull back now.
And that's the unfortunate thing. If they had all the resources that they blew into a fight that was ultimately inconsequential. It wasn't the fight that was going to win them the cap. It could have been if the cart was already in motion, and it's kind of, in a way, I'm kind of glad they didn't cap that out because, you know, appropriately, Bazaar punished them very well.
And that's the thing, I think maybe hadn't expected that Bazaar were going to be that far back, but instead of pulling back, they went, well, we're already in. And now once again being in the thick of it, Hannies wins that Transcendence, keeping everyone nice and healthy, and still the payload not actually moving in this fight. They're fighting way back from it. They're trying to get the convincing win and then move the payload, but they're failing to do that. And every time they fail to do that, they end up wasting time, unfortunately, only just moving a bit of the payload now, but Bazaar already with the fight win. These are very late kills from Talon, but they're not going to be overly impactful.
On the back.
Oh, never mind, actually. Getting Sadistic's mech. Oh, is the self-destruct to come out. Could just... Oh, no, not going to zone out any members. They're not done here. Sadistic back out of the mech. Pichu hasn't reset. This actually may be enough for Talon, getting a few kills at a crucial moment.
And the sort of momentum kills they're getting here, they're snowballing onto a lot of members. I'm not too sure Bazaar have what it takes to stop this push. One sound barrier from Talon into the Transcendence. So much defense.
They're not rotating up to into any ultimates here, Bazaar. They haven't got resources to turn this fight back around. The EMP not going to come up in time. Neither was the Valkyrie. And that was maybe actually a small stroke of genius out of Talon. Taking that very aggressive fight did actually draw ultimates out of Bazaar, and it looked like the fight was maybe going to be a wash in favor of Bazaar, but the fact that it wasn't, the fact that a couple of trade kills came in, actually gave Talon just enough space to then get back on the cart with their ultimate advantage and push it through to the end.
The thing is, it's not just about getting trade kills, it's the specific timing in which those trade kills did come in, and that was during a time when Talon was still regrouping, still coming in with reinforcements. They didn't quite stop and reset fully. They still had presence on that cart, trying to get that objective across, and then the kills started to come in. And as the kills started to come in, the members for Talon started to come in also, and then the snowball started to happen. 6v4. 6v3 members from Bazaar couldn't come out of spawn in time and didn't get enough trades. In fact, I'm not too sure they got any trades on Talon in those final moments. That's what gave Talon that final push to get towards the finish line.
And it was the only push they needed, as it turns out. Only 16 seconds left on the clock as well when it happened. Bazaar will be wishing that maybe they could have just drawn a little bit more time off the clock. Made it happen in overtime, but now they need to get a full cap out and try and win it on time bank if they win this at all.
Now you got to consider how much cleaner this could have been if it was about 2 fights before for Talon, when they handled the ultimates, when they did go too deep and they didn't focus on the count. If they won on that fight and it was clean, we could be seeing 1 minute 16, 1 minute 36, maybe 2 minutes, something like that. Not 16 seconds.
Yeah.
That's barely enough time. I mean, Talon, they almost didn't get it across the board. I think they're going to be really disappointed with that.
Yeah, well, it's barely enough, but it could be just enough, because it is the difference between time bank and no. Sometimes that can be all the difference, but if Bazaar don't push it all the way through to the end, then that's not even going to matter. That 16 seconds could be 10 minutes for all the difference it will make.
And look for Bazaar's setup here is on Notsuru-sama, the key person in this attack play. Get him onto the high ground with Panties as well. Look at that front line.
It is.
Bit making space.
Yeah, that's a dive in the wrong direction from Buteok as far as dislodging Notsuru-sama goes. Now finally getting into the right direction, but Raphael's already down, so they lose a lot of the DPS pressure. Slay Vega also demech'd. They lose a lot of the dive pressure, and Bazaar now well set up as they want to be. Buteok knows he can't go in too deep. In fact, going to get killed on the backside of that. That is a pretty clean fight from Bazaar.
And you look at the timing of when Notsuru-sama decided to show himself as well. As soon as Buteok did dive onto the wrong side of that defense on A, it was a clear sign for Notsuru-sama to appear on that opposite side, get that long range damage down, get that high ground control, and he could not be contested because the tanks had already made their move.
Not many ultimates available here for Talon as well. They don't really have a good way to...
Well, they lost so quickly.
Yeah, that's the thing. They don't have a good way to stall up this card or take an early fight or anything. It would just be just sort of a straight pile in. They're going to have to go for it anyway, though.
And look for, you know, the Valkyrie coming online very, very soon. Could be a pretty swingy ultimate, especially when Talon got nothing to work with. But also the tanks of Talon are set up to make the dive. They want to go aggressive. Where's the rest of Talon?
And there's going to be the Valkyrie, and indeed, yeah, where's the rest of Talon to follow up Buteok and Slay Vega? Because right now, those two tanks getting chunked out. It's going to be the Transcendence from MCD that barely saves them at the right kind of time. Persia, though, not getting enough with the Nano Boost, and this is just Bazaar kind of weathering the storm, backing out a little bit. Talon do get a bit of time, but committed resources too. Recommit though.
Tech Visor now coming into play immediately into a Transcendence though.
Yeah, just again, nothing really nicely baited, I would say, by Bazaar. Slay Vega, ooh, doesn't get anything, but it doesn't matter because actually Talon were able to get a few members that were trying to hide from that one. So it does go the way of Talon despite a few resources kind of hitting thin air there throughout the course of that entire fight. Bazaar were really close to pushing that one into a fight win, but now Talon with the upper hand, looking to go for a spawn camp.
And I do want to jump in the time machine and go a little bit backwards as well, because when the Nano Boost went onto Persia to start with, it gave him the Tank Visor that we just saw. Tsunosama in that same fight also used the Tank Visor to no avail. So Bazaar, they had ultimates. Valkyrie was in fact used as well. That didn't get anything. The spawn camp currently is not fully in effect. Talon giving a bit of respect to Bazaar.
Yeah.
And Bazaar got to make something happen with that space.
Yeah, Bazaar, exactly. And they do indeed make space with the self-destruct, but it's negated by Buteok, who dove straight in with the Primal Rage, getting the Tsunosama.
MCD
back
coming
in. MCD, no, does not. Yeah, that's so crucial. That being off the board, and now Pichu getting picks too, and just through and through now Bazaar kind of weathering that initial storm. I like the move from Talon to try and stop Bazaar from following up on the self-destruct, but not quite going the way that they wanted it to despite the early pick, and now payload back underway for Bazaar.
And this needs to be a huge defense now for Talon, because too many times we're seeing players die with ultimates that they maybe should have committed. If that Transcendence came down, Talon could have possibly held onto that cap, and now it's going to be a desperation play.
Straight in with that Transcendence, just barely 0.28 meters, but Persia's already the first casualty in the fight. Talon are just kind of piling in that one. They didn't look particularly set up. Cap! MCD, Cap went through! Oh, that is so unfortunate for Talon, and now that they're having to wheel back, having given that one away by mistake, they're getting picked apart on the retreat as well. This is big for Bazaar.
That's a massive sigh from me as well. Look, they had to bank on that final desperation defense. The Transcendence not even getting a value. It's a Transcendence to speed to the cart to try and contest it at about 2 meters rather, like you said. Even that wasn't enough. If you're gonna do that, that needs to be a full health defense. But for Talon, they let it slip through their finger cracks. Bazaar though, they'll be happy to take it a lot of time to work on C.
Yeah, and a lot of progress for free on C here as well before Talon are even in position to commit.
Look at that
now the commit comes in. Oh, they get the kill on Tsunosama though, so it does pay off for them. But yeah, they actually let that go to in really one fight of lost.
Bad luck, Pichu.
Yeah, bad luck, Pichu indeed. Like I said, to win in one fight of lost, but Talon do get the fight win. Look at just set up a spawn camp here, maybe. No, they know they can't go for it.
It's like the second time in the game as well. It's like looking to set up a spawn camp maybe, but a lot of respect being given, I think, on both sides there. Bazaar, they still have ultimates. Talon, they're still into sort of this desperation mode where they just don't have the tempo, I guess, is the best word I've got.
They are trying to play aggressively though, which I do like. They're trying to shut out these moves from Bazaar before they come into effect, but that's Bazaar making the space. Bumbarapa though does have the Primal Rage to stay alive. They're not getting the close. Oh, Buteok dying just as he got his ultimate. Not quite enough time to press the Q button. Zobi, though, going down. Could be a swing point for Talon as far as stabilization goes, but so far the fight not really going their way at all.
I don't know about this
stall, though, yeah. I mean, it stalls for a bit. It gets some members back in the fight, but yeah, he's going to go down. Raphael as well going down. So even as these other respawners come in, there's no one to capitalize on the tanks now being here. They're going to have to get a lot more time out of Buteok and a lot of kills out of Persia's ultimate, which is going to be hard. The Transcendence just kind of stopping that one from being effective before it's even pulled out, and then he dies! Oh no! Panties though going down. Talon may have been able to stabilize because that payload wasn't actually moving much, but Tsunosama now, Tactical Visor, self-destruct out of Sadistic. They can make more space once again, looking to get the kills to secure it, looking to get the last full wipe that they need. Raphael Persia, both going in, both not finding much. No, Persia's getting enough now as he drops Pichu, but he loses his own life. Bazaar smartly backing off, having drained Talon dry, and just looking to get it for those last few meters with just under 2 minutes remaining.
My word, that was a very clutch defense from Talon, but also an unnecessarily clutch defense. They didn't have to be in that place if they weren't so on the back foot to start with. I mean, they were just struggling. It was members trying to throw ults in out of desperation, trying to stay alive. Buteyuk and Slay Vega as the only tanks for so long, getting in there, waiting for Persia to come back. We were looking at this Dragon Blade. What was he going to get done with it? And finally, it was good.
Persia though, right as they're trying to take this proactive dive, he dies, and now Talon are just split apart by their own hand. Slay Vega down, Buteyuk too low to be a factor in this fight. He's in full retreat mode, which means they cannot affect this payload as it continues trudging along towards the cap. A minute still remaining. Bazaar though losing panties just shy of the coalescence. Talon again so back-footed, but this time it doesn't look like they'll get back on the front foot. Self-destruct out, catches Haru. Raphael, nothing but nothing with the pulse bomb, and even an EMP from Tsurusama, who had only just swapped off to the Sombra before that fight for good measure. And as it happens, that 16 seconds could well make all the difference here, because Bazaar have so much more on the clock than Talon.
They have in a certain context, in a certain other context, they actually don't at all, because they barely have it under 1 minute, and it's another case where you have to think for Bazaar there's a potential that they could have had that so much earlier if Persia didn't get that clutch Dragon Blade, which eventually came in, like I said, unnecessarily clutch, because he had that for so long, died with it many times before it finally came out. Even then though, Talon held out for a decent amount of time, 16 seconds on their side, around 50 seconds for Bazaar side. It is an advantage, but at this point, there isn't enough time in total. Both teams could fail to cap.
Or both teams could cap in one push, as essentially happened on both of their initial attacks. So that is where that 36 seconds could well make a difference, or not. And I think one thing that will get tested truly is how well these teams played at time bank, because that is somewhere we see a lot of teams actually struggle. This is not something a lot of teams get a chance to practice.
Well, the difference here is going to be Talon has kind of 1.5 push, one push fully, and then, you know, if they reset quickly enough, maybe a second push, or just one long push and then one overtime. Whereas Bazaar, they will at least get 2 full guaranteed full length pushes, and that might make the difference, as you've already said. But it is Talon on that first attack with only 1 minute. Persia may not get an EMP, but if he does, it'll be clutch.
And they're really, I think they're making quite a high role play here. Bazaar, the dive in, weathered. Raphael low, has to dash back. Oh, he goes down, as does Buteyuk. And yeah, looks like already they're going to have to be going for a sort of second half push, if you will, especially if this ends up being a stall. No, Talon pulling back just in time.
Importantly though, they didn't lose enough members to kind of give Bazaar the ultimate advantage. There is an advantage, but it's not something that can be capitalized on by Bazaar here. No ultimates coming into play just yet. Persia not even close to that EMP, so for Talon, once again, it's going to be an ultless fight. It's a full reset into what is essentially the first fight all over again.
Slay Vega straight out, but Buteyuk's dead before it even starts. Effectively, an MCD getting pressured out. He's not got line of sight. Trade back is there. Haru also getting pressured, but it's Slay Vega to lose the mech, and that takes the tanks off the board. This EMP from Persia, though, it's up. It's got to be big. It may have been big, but no, he's dead. The follow-up could not come in, unfortunately, for Talon, despite this Transcendence. And Bazaar with his close respawns and Tac Visor from Tsurusama trying to close it out. Good bubble though. This is nearly a third of the point. Bombarapa needs to get into the thick of it, trying to save Sadistic before he goes down. And there's going to be a Transcendence from Panties as well now, which will keep the team safe. Should be able to overcome the tide, but the kills are still coming through, even for both of them. Panties dead. Raphael, there's the Dragon Blade. That could be the sealer. That could be the one they need to get Zobi. I can't believe it. Bazaar, they had everything they needed there to actually close that out, to stop it from being a thing. But now Talon, with that first third coming through, I don't know if Bazaar could actually contest this one more time.
This is a huge loss for Bazaar as well, because like the cap's going to go in through. That first of all is very difficult for Bazaar to achieve in 136 as it is, but now not only that, they have to go into the overtime guaranteed to try and get this, you know, this distance. Talon Esports, anything they set here is already a massive bonus to this attack.
This is really, really incredible. I mean, Bazaar had that in their sights. They had all the numbers They even have the tactical visor.
How many times have we said that? Yeah. Bazaar just keep nearly being there.
And not quite getting there. And now they need to take early fights. This is what we talk about when we say playing to time bank. These changes compositionally from Bazaar could cost them. What? Ooh! Nearly had no one on the point. Talon nearly stepping off it for too long, but it pays off. They get the picks. This gives them even more space. Bazaar need to be the proactive ones. They need to stop letting Talon get away with this.
These are late picks. Look, Talon could have very well catch second.
Are you kidding
this is
me?
Ridiculous now as Persia. Look, I want to highlight that opening play. Nitsuru-sama wanted to kind of be the smart person in the room, but Persia saw him. He got the hack into Nitsuru-sama. You can't translocate out of there, and now potentially Talon might cap. They could very well do this.
They are indeed. Oh no, there we go. Contested the last second, but they've got the tools. They've got the transcendence. They've got so much. Zobi's the first casualty. Panny's own transcendence in the mix will be about to run out, and they just haven't done enough damage to these members of Talon. The self
gonna happen.
Is big. A cap. Can you believe it? Talon are getting so much distance.
I can definitely believe it right now because Bazaar is falling apart before our very eyes. One cap with 1 minute, that's ridiculous. A second one, unbelievable. A third one here, nearly impossible. But Talon are about to make believers of us all tonight.
And Bazaar, they've got these ultimates coming up on rotation, but if Persia, and you can already see him hiding, gets a proactive EMP, a well-placed one, it won't matter what Bazaar have. There goes the one from Nitsuru-sama, though. They're looking to slam dunk this right out the gate. They do get the members low. They get the closeout on Buteok. Haru too far to do anything. Slay Vega demagged. Raphael sure to drop soon. Even if he gets a pulse bomb, it won't be enough. The gong sounds, the overtime disappears, but that is a ton of distance that Talon had no right to get.
And at the same time, every right to get, because if Bazaar are going to give it to you, you'll take every single centimeter, every single inch, whatever unit of measurement you would like to use here. Talon got it all under their belt.
It depends on whether you use freedom units or the other one. I think it's French. Yeah. I think the metric system is French. Well, they actually tried to convert time to a metric system as well during the French Revolution. Glad that one didn't go through. But you know what did go through in an astonishingly short amount of time was 2 whole caps followed by extra distance on C. Look, we said that 36 seconds could make all the difference. It makes all the difference if the cart only gets a little way or if you actually fully hold out. Bazaar have to do the same thing in overtime here. That extra time isn't going to be enough to get them all the way here without being in overtime.
Not even close. And it's like, you say it's a short amount of time, but at the same time, it was like the longest time ever. It looked like everything was in slow motion, especially if you're Bazaar. You just can't believe it. Everything is just kind of going wrong all at the same time. It's not a short amount of time when you consider just how many fights Bazaar had to lose. Go back and count them. It was multiple. You have to lose so many times as Bazaar for that to actually happen. And that's the really crazy thing when you think about it, is it's not just Bazaar slipping up once, twice, 3 times. It's way more than that.
And by the way, 2 fight fails here means it's just one and done, right? Not only do they have to win this opening fight on A without stalls, without delays, they then have to actually get that momentum on their side. And even just a tight fight, a dangerous fight, could rob them of that option. Barapa already on the dive, looking to do the same thing, but this time Talon have read it. Sadistic going to get popped out of the mech. Slay Vega nearly losing his own, but preserving it crucially as they keep the damage on Barapa. He's just barely alive, but Nitsuru-sama dies. Bazaar have to reset now. They are indeed going to back off.
And that's their 36-second advantage gone. Now we're at the 1 minute mark. What can they get done with that? A sleep dart does connect.
Talon, they're just looking to stop this from getting set up. Like I said, this is what Bazaar did on their original offense, and Talon are not going to let it happen twice. They know how to deal with this. It's all just execution.
This is just time being wasted. 20 seconds gone, and Bazaar have not even left that.
Raphael, though.
They have, though.
That is a great headshot from Pannies. Buteok as well. That could be the opening. Indeed, it is going to be the opening that Bazaar need. That is not the ideal target for a nano boost. Self-destruct also going well wide. Nitsuru-sama smart to hold on to this tactical visor now. Talon maybe want to come in for a last-ditch one here.
No, they absolutely do not, because you don't want to give extra momentum to Bazaar right now. The 900 IQ play is to first put Persia onto the Sombra, and then secondly, to give enough respect to say, we don't care if you cap. You're not getting to C. You're not even getting past B. Talon need to win one fight, just one, And because they know they only need to win one fight, put all your eggs in the EMP basket, because when that baby lands, this fight should be over.
And that's the thing, right? When it landed for Bazaar on their defense, it didn't happen until C. Persia's got it already. It could just end right here for Bazaar. They have to keep Persia shut down every single fight, or find a way to stop the EMP from killing them all. As it connects, they go right in, but they've not got the conversion just yet, and that could be the difference maker. They may have weathered the storm as they pop Slay Vega. Now the hack ends and they commit their ultimates. May have committed a few too many if you think about wanting to preserve momentum, but they keep the cart moving for now, and that is at least something.
Oh, that was an important fight win, yeah, and a late death as well. So for Talon Esports, I'm not too sure they can contest on B anymore. Maybe we will get to another seed. I don't even want to entertain the thought of Bazaar potentially winning this, but that could actually happen. Look, I think B is going to be capped right now. The next ultimate is going to be what turns this game. Raphael Tactical Visor, is that going to be the one? How are we on C right now for Bazaar?
Yeah, consider your thought. Thoroughly entertained, my friend. It's only a Primal Rage from Bumbarapa, and soon enough the Pulse Bomb, but these are going to have to come up big to really matter. Talon get the setup, and in that they get Raphael. It rounds the corner. It is so close, and this is going to be the fight. The open is there. Sadistic, he's going to be the one to get popped. The Tactical Visor doing work, but Slay Vega popped in equal measure as Bumbarapa aggressive. They get Persia. They got Slay Vega. They're going to do it. Bumbarapa only just going down to Raphael, who is now miles from the fight. MCD can get this Transcendence to stall, to maybe save it. He does as the Tsurusama gets his Tactical Visor and the Primal Rage there for stall, but they get the tank back up. They need to keep the Tsurusama alive. They need to drop Buteok as well. Finish the job. There he goes down. Pichu, the gun's trained, and now just looking to cross it over the line, needing to get just a few more. Popping Slay Vega just shy of a self-destruct as well. That Pulse Bomb did come in big right when needed. They are going to get the Transcendence out of Panties. They are going to get everything they need, and then just a little bit more. Slay Vega a little bit too late to that party with no kills on the self-destruct, and now it's Trickle. It's desperation from Talon. Even a Doomfist for good measure, but it's not there. What just happened?
I'm trying to think of what could be more ridiculous, and then I'm honestly kind of struggling right now. Like we find out the moon is actually made of cheese. I'm not too sure anymore. Like, what could be crazier than what we just saw? How did two teams manage to get that much distance in the overtime? One team should not have been able to get that much distance in the other overtime, let alone two.
I feel like that time bank lived and died by Bazaar. And the reason I say that it was on their own defense that a few unfortunately timed things, a few miscalculated fights, a few misused resources gave Talon a lot of space. Talon also played it well. They took full advantage of it. But then on Bazaar's own offense, it was their ability to read Talon's tools to sort of weather the storm, as it were, as things were getting committed. We saw that in Persia's EMP very early on in the Streets phase. It seemed that actually Bazaar did very much deserve to win that, at least in terms of their own time bank offense. And we talk about this quite a lot. Once you're in time bank, all bets are off, right? Like, we've seen teams, you know, just barely finish a map and the other team finish it with 4 minutes to spare, but how you play time bank is what truly counts.
And at the end there as well, I think that one EMP play by Persia needed to be the final fight. They had to win it there. They banked on it so much. They gave away A. I don't want to say gave away A. They actually had a great defense, all things considered, on A. But look, it just wasn't quite there. Exciting things, though. And I'm excited to see what comes next. As we come out of the break,